Happy Monday, everybody. It's the Monday after the Monday Memorial Day. We're into June 1st. And the first day of June, today, marks the start of the Atlantic hurricane season. La-di-da, aren't we lucky there? Which doesn't really have much to do with us, but the good news for the week is that after the early evening shower we had earlier today, it appears we will not have any more rain until perhaps Friday night. So that'll be good. Pardon me. It's going to be fine. That means that the Macoupin County Fair should go without any problem. They won't be having any delays because of rain or messing up any of the shows, unless things change. But as it stands right now, it's showing no rain until Friday night. That means the harness races. Harness horses tomorrow, starting at 5 o'clock, they'll go off on a pretty good track, probably. Bottom line, weather in central Illinois and much of the Midwest and the Ohio Valley for the whole month, according to the long-range forecast, we'll have higher than average temperatures and lower than average participation. So in other words, it won't be sweater weather, it'll be sweating weather. That's what we've got to look forward to. Hi, Jim. Hi, Betty. Jim Marcacci, still holding out, holding court with that wonderful book, Beneld and the Booze Gang. Have you got your copy yet? All you got to do is go on Amazon, or actually you can catch Jim off on Facebook and see a lot of the different places where he is signing and talking about Beneld and the Booze Gang. Hi, Denise. Hi, Jim. Hi, Betty. Nice to see you all. I know we've got a good crowd, and we will have a good crowd. We've been having very, very, very large numbers of people watching this, which to me is a big shock, but I appreciate it very much. I had karaoke on Saturday night, and a couple of our karaoke regulars who used to come sing on Passport to Stardom showed up. They were Rick and Mel Damaris. Rick and Mel, just a wonderful couple, used to live in Staunton until CVS decided they wanted the corner their house was on. So they sold that to CVS. CVS put up a new store there. And then they moved to Virginia, Illinois. And the thing that I really love about Rick and Mel is they do a lot of the older songs that nobody else does. And Mel especially is a big fan, of course, of Loretta Lynn and also Kitty Wells. And her and I were talking on Saturday night, and she mentioned a couple of songs by Kitty Wells and asked if I could possibly find them on karaoke. And unfortunately, they just are not on karaoke, period. And nobody has ever recorded a karaoke version for them. But the songs were, I Heard the Jukebox Playing, and the other one was, I Gave My Wedding Dress Away. And they were old, very old, of course, back in, the 50s. But they were two wonderful story songs. And I suggest that for fun or inspiration, you look them up on YouTube, which you can find them, or just even to find the lyrics and read the story. Because you can pretty much imagine I Heard the Jukebox Playing is about, somebody's husband hanging out in the tavern instead of coming home, and he called and lied, but she heard the jukebox playing. But the other song, I Gave My Wedding Dress Away, is a tearjerker of the highest magnitude. I Gave My Wedding Dress Away, and it's a story about a girl who fell in love with a guy, and of course she was planning the wedding, and she had her wedding dress. But her little sister who she had helped raise after her mama had died. Her little sister, of course, always got everything because she loved her little sister. But she wasn't counting on her little sister stealing her beau away. But because she was such a good, kind, wonderful person, as much as she loved her boyfriend, she let her little sister have him, and she gave her wedding dress to her. Which, I'm telling you, listen to the song. And Kitty Wells, who had such an amazing voice, Kitty did. So I suggest you listen to those two songs, and you can let me know what you think of them. But unfortunately, you won't be able to sing them unless you memorize them and get your own accompaniment, because they're not out there. But anyway, that is the story of Rick and Mel, and I appreciate them. We always, by the way, they were at the Eagles last Saturday night, and they'll be there again probably next Saturday. We always have a great time at the Eagles Lodge in Litchfield. It's on Ryder Street, right off of State Street downtown. And all you have to do is drop in, and you can come sing with us. We'd love to have you. What we have at the Eagles is cold beer, nice cocktails, simple, and no drama. So that's the most important thing, no drama. Because I must tell you, there's a lot of karaoke people out there these days. Of course, none of them do what we used to do on the radio, like our own little Grand Ole Opry. But a lot of karaoke these days carries a lot of drama with it, because everybody wants to be the best, and everybody wants this, and everybody wants that. And that's why I love doing it at the Eagles. We just come and sing. And we're a lot of friends, and we'd like to meet new friends. So you're more than welcome to come. We won't bug you to join, but if you want to, you couldn't hang out with better people. Okay, that's that. Yeah, we got the karaoke thing. Hi, Barb. How are you? I'm sorry I missed you on Wednesday night, but we'll get together again before long. Barb's our Wednesday evening bartender at the Eagles. You might be interested. Travis Kelce gave a sign that he and Taylor are changing their last names after getting married. He was on put an Instagram post up last week from the podcast Bussin' with the Boys, in which the two hosts there, Will Compton and Taylor Lewin, discussed if Taylor would change her last name to Kelce after tying the knot. And, a guest on the podcast said, well, Taylor is far more globally famous than Kelce, and that Kelce would have to change his name. The host joked that Travis Swift was a fitting name for Kelce, but that Taylor Kelce also sounded pretty good. Then they decided that hyphenating their two last names would be the best thing to do. Hi, Dawn. How are you? Nice to see you. Thanks for joining in. Taylor and Kelce, so they become Swift Kelce. They're getting married in New York, by the way. Remember all that talk about where are we going to go get married, and we're doing all this to my Taylor's big house in Rhode Island, the mansion there by the sea. But not going to happen. They're getting married in New York. And I saw one other thing that, Stephen Colbert, his last show was just nothing short of amazing. And, of course, Byron Allen, his new comedy show, took over because he bought the time from CBS. CBS decided that was the best thing to do, to sell that time instead of spend all that money producing Stephen Colbert's show. Next thing is, I guess they're going to tear down the Ed Sullivan Theater. I don't know what's going to happen. It's empty. But Byron Allen's new comedy show has lost 85% of the audience that Stephen Colbert was drawing. So now you know that. A lot of my friends I talked to were down at the landing dock, or the landing, what's the name of the place? I forget now. My mind is gone again. Down at Grafton, the loading dock, down at the loading dock. And they were talking about it was nice, but it was a little windy. It's nice to be out there on the patio under the umbrellas. But I don't know if you saw the story about the woman who was sitting with her friends outside on a patio down in South Carolina, and they were just having a drink, having a nice visit, and all of a sudden the wind came up, big storm, and what happened was, the wind tore the umbrella, like out of the table, from a table away, came over and hit this woman and killed her. Oh, it was awful. I've never heard of anything like that happening, but it did. The 89 drones that plunged into Sydney Harbor the same day, that was nothing compared to this poor lady getting killed. What a shame. So how are you this evening? We've got 2 June. That means we're 5 months in, and so far we're still fighting. We're still fighting. I wish we weren't, but we are. We're still using drones. We're still paying a little less for oil, but the price of oil jumped up again today. Jumped up to about, what was it? I think $97 today, after dropping just below 90 yesterday. Or, yeah, yesterday, because they sell oil 7 days a week. Prices of homes have risen in some areas. It's awful. I was talking to my sister. Hi, Jim. Thanks for joining in. I know you can't stay long, so good luck on your project tomorrow. Price of homes in San Francisco is booming. They say that the great sales are coming from the high-income folks, and the luxury houses are really jumping up in price. Median U.S. luxury home sale price is up to about $1.4 million this year. That's 3.6% over last year, compared to 1.4% median price increase for non-luxury homes, the ones you and I buy. I'm just so glad that I live in a small town where people aren't stepping over each other to buy every house that's available. Oh, wait, they are, aren't they? We have a housing shortage here in Litchfield. But they aren't going for $1.4 million all over the place. Luxury prices have grown since November of 2022. Out in San Francisco, they're up to about $2.15 million. Here's the thing that got me. My sister lives in San Bruno, which is a northern suburb of San Francisco. It's out by Palo Alto, Stanford University. It's a lovely area. She can watch the forest fires, the wildfires, from her apartment balcony. But anyway, she told me that just last week she had to move. Evidently, real estate is so expensive in California, the large apartment complexes, or many of them, are owned by multiple landlords. You got 2 or 3, you've got 1, you've got a dozen, you've got 2 or whatever. But nonetheless, her landlord sold to somebody else, and he wanted to move in. Hi, John. Nice to see you. Hope it was a great weekend over at Twisted Trail Winery. That's John White there watching. Thank you, John. So she had to move. She was lucky, she said, because her neighbor was a young married couple, and they were moving. Moving somewhere else in California, had bought a house, and she was able to just move right one door down in the apartment building. Different landlord, but same building and one more down. But she told me, she said, "Brother, I've lived in California for 47 years. when I first came out here, and I was in literally this apartment building. And I have enjoyed it, but my rent has gone up from under $1,000 a month to right now I am paying right at $4,000 a month for my rent. She said I bought my last apartment by paying $500,000 or $600,000 just in rent. Of course, I also told her, I said, now Tina, you're also one who rented a Steinway piano and probably paid for it in rental over the years. But I don't even think she had a chance to keep it when she moved. But anyway, to think about $4,000 a month rent for an apartment. Now, the last apartment that she was paying about $3,000 for, I know it was one bedroom. And as a matter of fact, she's not married, and she said she rented out the couch, which was helping pay for the rent. So hopefully the $4,000, she'll be able to deal with. She also told me, and I'm sorry I'm going on and on about the family stuff, but it's interesting how people operate in California. She has worked in education, in sales support, in sales development for many, many years. And one of the jobs that she had was with a company called Chegg. And she had worked with Chegg for several years, and they were really good because Chegg was a company, it was an education company, and its primary purpose was to help college students and PhD applicants, help them write their theses, help them write their essays. And they had like 80,000 clients that they would help people write papers. Well, obviously the downside of AI has pretty much eliminated the need for most of Chegg's services. So she said, oh boy, this was really tough. So she wasn't working for Chegg. She had another company that she was working for, and she lost that job. And she said, I really need something. But what she found, she was doing a lot of contract work to keep things going. But what she found was a company in Singapore that wanted her. And she said, this is fine. It's not quite as much money as I was making before, but it also was steady. But here's what happened, and this is what the folks in Singapore wanted. Singapore is 16 hours ahead of the time in San Francisco. 16 hours ahead. So she said, I'm working my daytime hours, plus I'm on call those 16 hours. So she's been getting phone calls in the middle of the night. She says, I'm not even getting undressed half the time. So, she said, I'm looking again. So I wish her luck. Say a prayer for her. All right, so houses are expensive. Jobs are a little tight in California. But evidently, Kentucky's doing well. Now, earlier I told you, I'll change subject. Earlier I was telling you about the Macoupin County Fair. Tomorrow is harness day. Harness horses will be running at 5 o'clock. I've ran across a story earlier this week about a horse race. The most unusual horse race in the sense of how it played out. There is nothing in the horse racing rule book that says a dead person can't win a race. Truly. And that's exactly what happened to a guy named Frank Hayes about a century ago. The 22-year-old Frank Hayes had just made the jump from being a stable boy to a jockey. And he had the misfortune of suffering a fatal heart attack while atop his faithful steed's Sweet Kiss, and the good fortune of finishing, and because he didn't fall off, he finished first. He won the race anyway. Now imagine this. This guy, he's 22 years old. He has been a stable boy, stable hand, and he gets a chance to ride this horse, and whether it's excitement or whatever, He dies. But he's got a hold of the mane, and he's got a hold of the reins, and he's got his feet in the stirrups. And on a horse racing saddle, the stirrups are up very high, so his legs and his knees are against the flanks of the horse. So he's in a pretty good position. But when he dies, if he falls forward, and if his hands, and assuming this is what happened, there's no video of it, but I'm assuming his hands went down along the sides of the horse's neck and he didn't fall off. This was even more incredibly, this was a steeplechase race. A race that involved obstacles like hurdles, hedgerows, and water, like a small creek about 3 feet wide. So when you have those obstacles to jump over, and he still never fell off. This happened on June 4th, coming up in a couple of days. June 4th, 1923, in Belmont Park at Elmont, New York. Belmont Park, where, of course, the Belmont Stakes is held. And I guess it will be held there this year, I think. I haven't been keeping track. Belmont in Elmont, New York, one of the greatest racetracks in the world, that took place June 4th, 1923. And it was the only race that Frank Hayes ever rode in. It was the only race he ever won. And given that Sweet Kiss, the horse, had 20-1 odds, the victory would have been an impressive feat, even if the ill-fated Hayes had been alive to enjoy it. Now, there are competing theories about what caused the heart attack of Frank Hayes. One newspaper suggested he had overexerted himself, trying to lose enough weight to qualify for the race. You see, the jockeys all had to weigh 124 pounds. When Frank Hayes found out he was going to be riding the horse 24 hours before, he weighed 134.5 pounds. Well, he had to take off 10 pounds in 24 hours. That story, written by the Buffalo Morning Express, wrote at the time. They said this morning he spent several hours on the road, jogging off surplus weight. He strove and sweated and denied himself water, and when he climbed into the saddle at post time, he was weak and tired. And others believed the thrill of the race was simply too much for the inexperienced rider to handle. Though unconfirmed, you got it, Jim, the last part of this story, it is believed that Sweet Kiss never raced again and earned the name Sweet Kiss of Death. That's it. Sweet Kiss of Death. Frank Hayes. Well, Frank, I feel sorry for you, buddy. But you made history. You just never got a chance to read it or enjoy it. Couple more things. Again, I said I'd tell you stuff that you don't get anywhere else. I don't know how many times you've said lately, for Pete's sake. But in the Oxford English Dictionary, it is in there in 1903. But the similar sounding phrase, for pity's sake, and I guess that's where Pete's sake came from, pity's sake is much older. It's been around since the early 1600s. And Shakespeare, who we credit a lot of phrases and things to, used that in Othello. The phrase for peace's sake has also been used sporadically since the 1600s, although for the sake of peace is more common. It's not a stretch to assume that for Pete's sake evolved out of the similar pronunciation of Pete and peace. Now, for Pete's sake isn't the only idiom named after no one. We can't forget Heavens to Betsy and By George. And although there have been several notable individuals named Sam Hill in American history, such as the abolitionist, The phrase, "What in Sam Hill?" predates all of them. And then, of course, some of us say something else. And in all of these idioms, the name in question could refer to any Tom, Dick, or Harry, of course, who were also not specific people. So, while I'm switching pages and going from here to there, what's on your mind as we just about get done? You got anything special that bugging you? I did have one final story I wanted to share with you. And again, it probably will answer, like I try to do, a question that you've had. A question that you've had probably your whole life, but maybe never really thought about. And that is, why are barns red? Now, I'm not talking about the ramshackle ones that are falling down that I haven't seen to paint a coat of paint. A coat of paint in 60 years. Why are barns red? You don't see a blue one. You don't see a yellow one. Well, there's a very definite reason why barns are red. Are you ready? Sweden's King John III admired the Gothic-era brick structures that were so common in the Netherlands. And in an effort to emulate that desirable reddish brick aesthetic, the king issued a 1570s mandate to apply a coat of red paint to 2 wooden castles in Stockholm and Turku. Now, this was possible thanks to paint dyed with iron oxide. And if you know what I'm talking about, iron oxide is rust, and that was used to create the reddish pigment. Now, the iron oxide came from a famous 9th century copper mine located there. The mine collapsed in 1687, but even though mine operators could no longer access any precious ore, they still had enough waste byproduct available to manufacture red paint. This led to a rise in the production of red paint throughout the 18th century, and use of the color permeated society. Now, as barns were raised across American farms, weather damage proved to be a major concern. Barns were subjected to harsh winds and torrential rain, and the risk of mold growth further complicated things. In an effort to ensure the barn's durability, many farmers turned to red paint as a protective varnish. Farmers relied on a mixture whose main ingredient was linseed oil, a brownish orange sealant that hydrated the wood and offered protection from the elements. Lime and milk were also added to help the oil stick to the barn. But the striking red color came from the addition of reddish iron oxide, also known as rust, which acts as a natural poison for any fungi, mold, moss, or other similar growths that could cause wooden barns to decay. With this in mind, farmers sourced rust from the old tools and weather-worn equipment found on so many farms. Once mixed with linseed oil, milk, and lime, it created the ideal varnish to protect against weather and decay, thus helping to keep barns standing for years to come. And I'm assuming you get the same beautiful red paint from, Sherwin-Williams or whatever. But that's that. Boys and girls, that's pretty much it. It's been an enjoyable evening. You have let me talk for 29 minutes, now 30. And I appreciate it, and I hope you have a great evening. And comments are always appreciated. I don't really get to see them when I'm doing this, except I do see occasionally who's watching. So I got 5 or 6 of you, but I know there were probably over 100, and 1,000 will watch this between now and the time we do another one next week. which makes me feel really good, and I appreciate it very much. And I may also get a chance to say hi to my cousin Nick out in California. He is working in L.A. Nick, I had on the radio show 2 or 3 years ago. I guess it was about the time COVID was knocking out all the movie production. Nick is what's known as a utility actor. He's not an extra, but he also is not a star. But he is an interesting fellow, and I'll have to find the interview and put that back up on our Facebook page because a lot of things are happening, changing in Hollywood right now. Oh, and by the way, I went and saw a movie. Hey, Lance, how you doing? It's nice to see you. And thank you, Jim. One of the things that I went to see on Monday was a movie called Backrooms. And I have to tell you, I did not understand 1 minute of it. But it was kind of fascinating, but I had no clue. And at the end, I had no clue. And I found out from Levi today, when I talked to him about it, he said, John, he said, if you've not been following Backrooms, which originally started as a game on the internet, and now there's about 30 different versions of it out there, you would not have had any clue. So I wish Levi had told me that earlier. I'd have went to see Breadwinner, which is pretty good. That's the movie with Nate Bargatze, and it's kind of a Mr. Mom, Daddy Daycare kind of movie, updated. It's pretty good. Of course, Mandalorian and the Goguru are still playing out there. But what we're really looking forward to, myself and so many others, is, of course, Disclosure Day, which opens June 12th. There's a lot of rumors, a lot of stuff going around about Disclosure Day. Is it a movie? Is it a precursor of what's really going to happen? You know, there's conspiracy theories. But anyway, thanks for hanging out. Thanks you very much. And I'll be talking to you on the radio, doing my regular show Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday from the Macoupin County Fair. Tomorrow I'll be heading over, getting everything set up. Again, I won't be there tomorrow, but Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we'll do the regular show from the fair. And if you happen to be going to the fair, if some of you watching in Macoupin County, I'll be in Frankie Pavilion right next to the office and broadcasting live. So just come by and say hi. I'd love to see you. All right. Thanks, everybody. Good night. Have a wonderful night. And remember, I love you. All you got to do is pass it on, and I'll see you on the radio. Bye-bye now. Till next Monday.